My sister-in-law hated me from the moment I started dating her brother. She wore black to our wedding, tried to sabotage our family, and after we announced my pregnancy, she handed me a poison plate. But when she saw who took a bite, she was horrified. You ever met someone who smiles at you but you can feel they hate you? That's how it's been with Brielle. From day one. She's my sister-in-law, my husband Ethan's only sibling, and I swear she's made it her personal mission to make my life hell. I'm Lena, I'm 28. I married Ethan 6 years ago. We've built this beautiful life together, our own home, a son we adore, and dreams slowly coming true. I mean, our love isn't flashy, it's quiet, solid. We're the couple who still kisses goodnight and fold laundry together. Not perfect, but close. Except for Brielle. She used to be tolerable, charming even. The type of woman who walks into a room and everyone notices. She'd laugh out loud, always had a story, always had a crowd. I was drawn to her at first, thought she was this bold, magnetic, fiercely loyal sister figure. That version didn't last. The real Brielle slipped through in little cracks. A dig here, a joke there. Comments dressed in silk but cut like knives. It started when Ethan and I first began dating. She'd randomly bring up his ex-girlfriends, constantly. Oh, remember when you and Marissa went to that cabin upstate? Or, you and Haley were so good together. You guys even had a playlist. I tried to laugh it off, tried to be the cool girlfriend, tried to believe it wasn't a big deal. But Ethan started noticing too. She's just stuck in the past, he told me once. Don't let it get to you. When we got engaged, though, it got worse, a lot worse. Ethan proposed in Central Park, right under that arch where we had our first kiss. He was down on one knee, I was in tears. It was one of those moments that feel too perfect for real life. We called his parents right after. They were ecstatic. Then he said, we should call Brielle. And that was the first crack. She answered the phone and Ethan blurted out, she said yes. Dead silence, then her voice flat. Wow, that was fast. You sure you're ready for that kind of commitment? Click. That was it. No congratulations, no excitement, just a dig, and then she hung up. I remember standing there with the phone still in his hand, heart pounding, and he tried to laugh it off. She's probably just shocked, he said. She'll come around. She didn't. The next morning, she texted Ethan something so nasty he wouldn't even let me see it. Just said, she's being dramatic, and deleted it. I let it go or tried to. At our engagement party a month later, she showed up in a skin-tight white dress. White. I mean, who wears white to someone else's engagement party? She drank too much, got loud, and at one point I overheard her say to someone, well, I give them a year. Tops. Still, I kept trying. I invited her to help with the wedding planning, thinking maybe if she felt involved, it would soften things. I wanted to believe we could be sisters, that I could win her over, but all she did was sabotage. She hated every dress I liked, said they swallowed me or made me look tired. When I picked out a rustic barn venue with fairy lights and wildflowers, she scoffed and called it Pinterest cosplay. She even told Ethan I was rushing him and that he should take more time to think it through, behind my back, like I wasn't already in love with this man, like I hadn't spent 3 years building a life with him. The final straw came at the cake tasting. I'd chosen this lavender-lemon combination I was obsessed with. Ethan loved it too. Brielle wrinkled her nose, pushed her fork aside, and said, it tastes like soap and regret. I was done. I went home that night and cried on the bathroom floor. Not because she hurt me, though she did, but because I was so tired of trying. Tired of making space for someone who only took advantage of it. I told Ethan, I don't want her at our wedding. He blinked at me. You're serious? Dead serious, I said. I've been trying to keep the peace, but she's not coming near my vows, my dress, or my day. He didn't argue. That's the thing about Ethan. He sees me. He knows when I've hit my limit. He called her, told her she was uninvited unless she could offer a real apology and mean it. She didn't speak to us for 2 weeks. Then came the text. I'm sorry for overstepping. I want to support your marriage. I'll behave. It wasn't sincere. I knew that. But I said, okay. I was exhausted. I just wanted the drama to stop. The day of the wedding came. I'd never felt more beautiful. My dress fit like it was sewn onto my soul. My mom helped me with my veil. My best friend clutched my hand as the music started. And then, there she was, Brielle, wearing black, a long, clingy funeral gown, complete with a lacy veil. Like she was mourning the death of her fantasy, the idea that she'd always come first. People whispered, stared. Even Ethan's parents looked stunned. She made a point to loudly joke to guess. "Well, guess I've officially lost my brother." Rip to the fun times. During the ceremony, she fake coughed through my vows. During the reception, she pulled Ethan aside and said something that made him go stiff as a board. He wouldn't tell me what. But the worst was when she tried to grab the mic during the toast. "I just want to say a few things," she said, teetering in her heels, glassy-eyed from champagne. Diane, Ethan's mom, stepped in. "No, Brielle, sit down." Brielle scoffed. "I'm his sister. I have the right to speak." Robert, Ethan's dad, stood. "Not tonight, you don't. You can't kick me out. Try us." They escorted her out. She didn't go quietly. She made a scene, heels clacking, veil dragging, yelling something about family betrayal as she left. And then, peace. The room exhaled. We danced. We kissed. We held each other under the fairy lights while people cheered around us. I tried to let it go, to focus on the love, the promise, the new beginning. But something inside me knew. This wasn't the last we'd hear from Brielle. Not by a long shot. You'd think after being kicked out of a wedding, her own brother's wedding, Brielle would have taken the hint. But no, that woman doesn't retreat. She reloads. It started small, like she was testing the waters. A couple of passive-aggressive texts to Ethan, a comment here and there in the family group chat, pretending like nothing ever happened. Then she started sending baby photos of Ethan's ex-girlfriends to Diane, his mother, photos she somehow still had. She'd caption them things like, "Remember how great they were with kids?" I didn't even know what to say. Ethan started ignoring her altogether. We both did. We were exhausted. And for a while it seemed like maybe she was finally backing off. Until the first family barbecue after the wedding. It was at Diane and Robert's place. Big backyard, lots of food, kids running around with water balloons. We were finally relaxing. I was holding Owen. He was 2 at the time. And Ethan had just made us both a plate. Then Brielle walked in. Late, loud, and not alone. She brought Ethan's ex-girlfriend Emily as her +1. I stood there frozen, like my body couldn't decide if it was ready to fight or flee. And to her credit, Emily looked just as uncomfortable as I did. She avoided eye contact with me the whole time, clearly realizing she'd been used. But Brielle? She floated around like she owned the place, made a point to gush over Owen in front of Emily, and then loudly whispered to Diane, "Doesn't he look just like Emily thought he would?" Like it was some inside joke. Later, she accidentally dropped a photo strip from an old photo booth. Ethan and Emily kissing in it, right in front of me. I snapped. I told her to cut the crap. She just blinked at me, all wide-eyed innocence. "Wow, Lena, you're being really sensitive." After that, Ethan finally blocked her on everything. Phones, social media, emails, all of it. Robert and Diane did the same. They told her they were ashamed and that until she could show basic respect, she wasn't welcome at any family events. It felt like we were finally reclaiming peace. For the first time since the wedding, our home felt light again. We focused on Owen. We traveled. We laughed again. A year passed. Then we found out I was pregnant again. I cried when I saw the test. Happy tears, nervous tears. I hadn't told anyone yet, not even Ethan. I wanted it to be special. So I planned to surprise him at his birthday party, a little gathering in our backyard with just close family and friends. I even made a tiny custom onesie that said, "Player 2 loading." That day was perfect. Sunny, breezy, full of laughter. Owen was chasing bubbles with his cousins. Diane was helping me set out cupcakes. And Ethan, he looked more relaxed than I'd seen him in months. Then the doorbell rang. It was Brielle, holding a big gift bag and flashing that fake smile like none of the past had happened. "Don't worry," she said quickly, hands raised. "I'm not here to start trouble. I've been going to therapy. I want to make things right." I didn't believe her, not for a second. But before I could respond, Diane walked over and actually hugged her. "She says she's changed," Diane whispered to me later. "Maybe this is her turning a corner." So we let her stay. Against every instinct in my body, I let her stay. I shouldn't have. After dinner, Ethan stood up and said a few thank yous. I squeezed his hand, stood beside him and said, "There's one more reason we're celebrating." Everyone went quiet. Then I pulled out the tiny onesie. People lost it, cheering, crying. Ethan kissed me and lifted Owen in the air, yelling, "You're gonna be a big brother." Everyone was glowing, except Brielle. She looked frozen like she'd just been slapped, but she forced a smile, walked over and said, "Congrats. Really? Let me get you a plate, Lena. You need to eat for two now." She handed me a dish a few minutes later, piled with grilled chicken, rice, and salad. "Thanks," I said, but something in me hesitated. The salad had sesame seeds on top. I'm allergic, deathly allergic. Even the smell sometimes gives me hives. She definitely knew this. I didn't want to make a scene. I pretended to take the plate, then discreetly switched it out with Ethan's when he went to grab Owen. Brielle saw it. She flinched. A few minutes later, Ethan's cousin Lucas, Brielle's husband, picked up the original plate. He took a bite of the salad. Within 5 minutes, he was on the ground, face red, gasping, swelling. We had to call an ambulance. Everyone was screaming, panicking. Diane was crying, holding his hand as the medics loaded him up. He made it, thank God. But in the ambulance, he told Ethan something that stopped time. "That plate, Brielle made it. She told me not to let anyone else touch it." I felt my stomach twist. That plate was meant for me. I could barely speak, couldn't sleep that night. The next morning, I told Ethan everything. Every instinct I'd ignored, or every warning I'd silenced. And Ethan? He didn't blink. He said, "We'll check the security cameras." We had a little camera facing the backyard, just a precaution we'd installed years ago after a break-in down the street. Ethan and Robert combed through the footage, and there she was, Brielle, standing in the kitchen, carefully preparing that plate, reaching into her purse for a tiny Ziploc bag, a bag full of sesame seeds and something else that was harder to detect. You know what's worse than realizing someone hates you? Realizing they tried to kill you and didn't care if someone else died instead. That night, after Ethan and Robert found the footage, the air in our house shifted, the kind of silence that makes your skin crawl. I was sitting at the kitchen table, just staring at the plate Brielle had handed me hours before, the one that almost ended Lucas's life. I'd never seen Ethan shake before, but he did, hands trembling as he paused the security video over and over again, like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. She did it. She actually did it. The Ziploc bag, the careful sprinkle of sesame, the way she looked around before placing the plate at the very top of the stack, meant to look like a thoughtful gesture, but it was bait, a trap for me. "She meant for you to eat that," Ethan whispered. "She wanted to send you to the hospital." I didn't say anything, just nodded, and then I threw up. Robert didn't hesitate. He called the police that night, told them everything, the footage, the allergy, Lucas's reaction, the history, everything. And Lucas? The poor man was still in the hospital, pumped full of meds, recovering from anaphylactic shock. But the second he could sit up and speak clearly, he pressed charges. He told police he was divorcing her. "She could have killed me," he said flatly, "and she didn't even visit me in the hospital. She texted me once, said, 'I guess you weren't supposed to eat that.' That's it." The officers came to our house, reviewed the footage, took statements. It didn't take long after that. Brielle was arrested 3 days later. She didn't resist. She didn't even cry. But what she did do, that still haunts me. She confessed. She told them everything. She told them the plate was for me, that she knew about my allergy, that she hoped I'd have a reaction, not die, she said, just enough to scare her, just enough to send a message. She said she wanted to humble me, said I ruined her family, said I stole Ethan, that she had been replaced. I wasn't even mad in that moment. I was numb. You know how your body just shuts down when it's trying to protect your mind? That's what happened, like my heart wrapped itself in concrete. And then came the bombshell. She was pregnant. Pregnant. Suddenly, everyone was walking on eggshells. Lucas, who was still recovering, nearly had a panic attack when he found out. He said he didn't even know. She hadn't told him. The whole family froze. Robert and Diane were devastated, torn between horror and heartbreak. But even that didn't change anything. She was still charged. Multiple counts, assault, attempted poisoning, reckless endangerment. Her lawyer tried to argue diminished capacity due to emotional distress. Therapy records were brought up. Brielle claimed she had lost control and was in a fragile state. But the prosecution? They had video, intent, a history of hostility, witnesses, Motive. Her pregnancy delayed the trial, but not the justice. And you know what finally broke me? She asked for bail, expected her parents to pay it. She actually looked Diane in the eye and said, "You raised me. You owe me." And Diane, God bless her, said, "We've owed you nothing for a long time. We just didn't want to admit it." They left her there, in county jail, pregnant, alone. That was the first time Ethan cried since this started. "She's not my sister anymore," he said. "She chose hate over everything." Lucas moved out that same week. He filed for divorce within days of the arraignment, changed his number, started therapy. Ethan helped him find a new apartment. Diane and Robert brought him groceries and checked on him daily. He became family again, real family. And me? I was shaking for days. I kept waking up at night thinking I'd eaten something wrong, checking my throat, checking my son's food twice. I couldn't breathe if I didn't see Ethan in the same room. I didn't eat anything I hadn't made myself for weeks. Eventually, I found a therapist, a trauma specialist. Because yeah, that's what this is. It's trauma. When someone you let into your life, a person you called family, tries to hurt you in the most calculated, cowardly way, it rewires something in your brain. I didn't trust anyone for a while. I barely even trusted myself. But I was pregnant, and I had a toddler who needed me whole. So I fought every damn day, and I journaled. I went to therapy. I cried until my eyes burned. And every time Ethan sat beside me, rubbed my back, kissed my forehead, and said, "You're safe now. She's gone." But the truth? You never feel completely safe after something like that. Still, we tried. We tried because we had to. And slowly, light started coming back in. Funny how something can shatter your entire world. And somehow you still wake up the next morning. After Brielle's arrest, I expected to feel relief, justice, vindication. But what I actually felt was empty, like the war ended, and now I didn't know what to do with the silence. I was 6 months pregnant by then. The baby kicked every night, little thumps against my ribs like she was reminding me to keep going. And I did. For her, for Owen and Ethan. But that doesn't mean it was easy. I started therapy full-time, twice a week, just to get through the nights without replaying that barbecue scene in my head. The plate, the sesame. Lucas is turning red. The sound of the ambulance siren. The scariest part? I still loved the idea of family. I just didn't trust the people who were supposed to be mine. But slowly, things began to stitch themselves back together. Lucas finalized the divorce. He told the judge he couldn't raise a child with someone who weaponized love. No one argued, not even Brielle's own lawyer. He moved into a place 2 blocks from us. Owen started calling him Uncle Lou again, like nothing ever happened. He was gentle with Owen, protective of me, quiet but present. He was healing too. Diane and Robert? They were wrecked for a while. Their daughter behind bars, their son traumatized, their family names smeared across legal documents. But they didn't hide. They showed up for us. Every doctor's appointment, every little milestone. They stopped calling Brielle. That silence spoke louder than any fight ever could. And Ethan, God, Ethan. I don't know how he held it together. Watching his sister turn into a stranger, watching his wife fall apart in front of him, watching his family nearly break. But he did. He cooked for me. He read Owen bedtime stories when my voice shook too much to get through Goodnight Moon. He sat beside me every night while I cried without saying a word. One night around 2 a.m., I woke up from another nightmare, sweating and shaking. He was already awake, holding my hand. "She doesn't get to live in your head," he whispered. "She doesn't get to take any more space in this house. This is our life, not hers." And something inside me shifted, not all at once, but enough. 3 months later, our daughter was born. We named her Eliana. It means God has answered, or light. And she is, the softest, most powerful little force I've ever known. Holding her for the first time, I didn't think about Brielle. I thought about the life we'd build, the family we'd protect, the peace we deserved. Owen became a big brother overnight, protective and curious, always bringing her stuffed animals she was too young for, insisting she'd want them when she's older. He kissed her forehead every morning before school and said, "I'll miss you." It's been over a year now. Brielle's trial ended with a guilty plea. No contest, no tears. Her sentence isn't long enough in my opinion, but she'll serve it. She'll give birth in prison. That baby, I don't know what kind of life they'll have, but I hope they get a second chance. A real one. I don't hate her anymore. I don't wish her pain. I just don't think about her. That's the difference between anger and healing. Some days I still flinch when the doorbell rings. Some nights I double-check everything I cook. But most days are quiet, and in that quiet there's laughter again. There's Eliana's first steps, Owen's finger paintings on the fridge. Ethan's arms were around me while we slow danced in the kitchen to nothing but the sound of the dishwasher. We still talk about what happened, not all the time, but when we need to, because pretending it didn't happen would be another kind of poison. But we survived it. We rebuilt our family, not the one we inherited, but the one we chose to nurture. And maybe that's the most powerful thing we ever did. Because Brielle tried to burn our world down, but all she did was remind us who we never want to be and how fiercely we'll fight to protect who we are. If you made it this far, thanks for riding with me. If you love real, messy, emotional stories like this, go ahead and hit subscribe. There's always another confession waiting in the backseat.